Baltimore has the best federal delegation in the country. And I tell my brother and sister mayors that they should argue with their mama, not with me. They fight for us day in and day out in Washington, working tirelessly to deliver resources and funding that our residents deserve. And we know that is even more important with the interesting time that we are having in Washington right now. With their support, we've been able to invest in the strategy that has helped us make historic progress. And I often tell the senator and the congressman that remind them that they were the very first to buy into this strategy and what we were doing to reduce violence in Baltimore, not through a mass arresting or zero tolerance policing, but approaching gun violence as a public health crisis that it is, and focusing on those that are at the risk of being highest risk of being involved in group violence. We all know, you've heard this before, but I'm going to say it again, these folks get a letter directly from me that essentially says, I know who you are, I know what you do. Step away from the life, and through YAP and ROCA and others, we will help you with whatever you need, housing, job, employment, whatever. But if you don't, and if you tell us to kick rocks, then you will hear from the commissioner and his folks, and you will meet swift and certain and legitimate consequences. Together with so many of the partners that are here today, we continue to not double down, but really quadruple down on the strategies that are working. Just the other week, we officially expanded GVRS into the Northern District so that residents here in Park Heights, over in Greenmount and Penn Lucie and Woodburn McCabe can realize the impact that this strategy is having in other parts of the city. We are now in 6 out of the 9 BPD districts across Baltimore, and we see the results every single day. Neighborhoods like this one, where in this very spot, we announced a massive investment of American Rescue Plan Act funding in 2021 to stand up this strategy and these interventions that are helping to drive the progress we're seeing across Baltimore. And since that announcement and us building out alongside BTD and our partners across Baltimore's public safety apparatus, we all know that shootings and homicides have dropped by more than 60% over the past 5 years. The 4 too many homicides that we saw in April represent the lowest monthly homicide total for Baltimore in recorded history. And as of this morning, homicides are down 15% from last year's 50-year low, and non-fatal shootings are down 10% as well. This is a continuation of the 3 consecutive years of reduction in 23, 24, and 25. But we have been very clear that we will not rest on our laurels. One life is one too many lost in Baltimore City. We still have room to grow, strengthen, and deepen this work. And despite the massive cuts at the federal level here in Baltimore, thanks to our private partners, our state partners, and of course, our wonderful federal delegation, we are continuing to sustain the investments into that progress. Today, we are celebrating a significant win for our city, and we are extremely thankful. Our delegation, the best delegation in the United States Congress, has secured an additional $1.18 million to support the group violence reduction strategy. Thank you to our wonderful delegation. It would help us expand proven data strategy, but most importantly, it will help us save lives. And with that, I would like to turn the microphone over to my good friend and a true champion for Charm City and a true champion for democracy, our Senator Chris Van Hollen.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'm really pleased to be joined by members of our federal delegation. Congressman Nfume, who never stops fighting for Baltimore City, thank you for joining us here. To Congressman Olszewski, who even when he was county executive in Baltimore County, was a partner with Baltimore City and is now fighting for the city every day. Thank you, Congressman Olszewski, for being here. And my good friend and partner, Angela Alsterbrooks, was not able to join us. She's been fighting for these funds, but Paxton is here on her behalf. So we wanted to be here, Mayor, to really demonstrate the partnership that we have with you and your team. And I know we're in your home, as you say, right? You went to primary school, what used to be Malcolm X Primary School, not too far from here. And you have been absolutely committed to making sure this neighborhood, but every neighborhood in this city, becomes more safe and more vibrant. And I do want to thank your team. I want to thank the Commissioner, Commissioner Worley, thank you, and all your fellow officers. Let's give them a big round of applause. And to Stephanie Moronis and all the folks who were part of Monzi, thank you all very much for your leadership. Now, I know the mayor made a couple points, but good news is worth repeating. It's also worth making sure we continue to pursue and sustain that good news. This was the spot. This was the spot back in 2021 that the mayor and his team, and with the support of the council, and thank you, Councilmember Middleton, for being here, and our state partners, that was the year that he committed $50 million of the American Rescue Plan monies for this important purpose. And your members of the federal delegation wanted to make sure that those funds could be put to the best and highest use. There were those who wanted to restrict their uses. We said that if we put them in the hands of the leadership of the city and local government, that they will know what best to do. And thank you for making that initial investment of $50 million to kick off this gun violence prevention effort, to reduce gun violence and ultimately eliminate gun violence here in the city of Baltimore. And as the mayor said, you've made progress. You've made progress just in the last year. I saw the police commissioner and the department's statistics saying that homicides were down 30%, non-fatal shootings down 25%, and that was a continuum. That's part of a path that we're taking toward gun violence prevention here in Baltimore City. And of course, the mayor cited the very good news for this month. And each of those figures represents a life saved. It represents a family avoiding pain and loss. And it represents a more vibrant and safe neighborhood and neighborhoods. And so at the end of the day, behind those statistics, what we're talking about is saving lives and a better quality of life. But as the mayor said, we are not simply here to celebrate, because we can never be satisfied with where we are. We need to constantly make forward progress. And that is why Congressman Mfume and Congressman Olszewski and Senator Ulsterbrooks and I were pleased to fight this year for another over $1 million for this program, because we need to maintain an investment. When something's working, you don't just let your foot off the gas. You keep your foot on the pedal and you keep moving forward. And that's what this over $1 million represents. I should also say that this year, we collectively, the federal delegation, secured $450,000 for the Youth Advocates Program. I know we have a lot of representatives from YAP here. Thank you very much. And over the last few years, we've secured over $1 million for ROCA Baltimore, and I want to thank them for all their efforts. Because as you can see, this does require partnership. It requires people who are dedicated to the mission, to getting the work done. But in order to get the work done, you need resources. And that's why those of us at in the federal delegation, we're proud to really team up with you to continue to provide those resources. So we're here to celebrate the progress made, but really to rededicate ourselves to making sure that we continue this work to help save lives and make neighborhoods stronger and even better. And with that, let me turn it over to somebody who has worked on these issues really his entire life, who's been a great mentor and friend to all of us, including the mayor, and somebody, whether he was in Congress or out of Congress, was fighting for justice and for public safety. I'm glad he's back with us in Congress. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Kwasi Mfume.
Thank you so much, Senator Van Hollen. I want to thank you also, as I did at Trade Point Atlantic, for the level, the quality, the sincerity of leadership that you have brought to this delegation. And I say that because we don't take it lightly. California has 53 members of Congress. Maryland has 10. So we've had to learn how to fight the good old-fashioned way, hand-to-hand combat, and finding out how to strategically place ourselves in significant positions on significant committees, which is why we deliver back to our state and back to our city almost 3 times what anybody would have expected. And Chris has been at the forefront of that. I'd have to say that. And on the House side with me, Congressman Johnny Olszewski, who's standing. He doesn't really need to sit because you'll always see him. He's somewhere hovering over me now. Johnny O, thank you for being a partner, man. I really mean that. You know, when we lost Elijah, when we lost Sarbanes and Rupersberger, we were wondering what we were going to end up with. We ended up with a great partner in him, and he has worked extremely hard. Now, let me say this about the mayor. You know, it was 4 years or so ago when we talked about and fought for to get the money into city before the Biden administration left. And we saw in that day and in you a person so committed to wanting to end what people said could not be ended. And that was the violence and the murders and everything else that was plaguing our city. And I'm so damn glad that you didn't listen to people back then who said it couldn't be done. And what we have seen is year after year after year of reductions in all of those major categories. And that's a testament to your efforts and to your belief that if, in fact, we all pulled together, we could do it. So thank you very, very much, Mr. Mayor. I mean that, too. You know it. I roamed these streets and up and down this neighborhood in the 70s and 80s. I remember what it used to be like. And I see now how it's trying so desperately hard to get back to where it wants to be. There's so many community workers here at the Park Heights Development Corporation, all the other community groups that go without any notice that do this. Stephanie Marunas, thank you so much. I've said this over and over again, for the dedicated way you've gone about working and handling and overseeing Muncie and GVRS. And I want to thank Mr. Mayor, the other partners here, Sharon Middleton, who in the city council has had your back from day one. Delegate Malcolm Ruff, whose district is not too far from here, who has continued over and over again to work with members of his team and to work with this city. I want to thank Delegate Ampry, whose heart and soul is here because his family's heart and soul is here. His family gave so much to this community. And I want to thank our dear friend, hi, don't be shy. Come on. Delegate McCaskill is in Baltimore County just across the line, but this is home to her, and she works like it's home day in and day out. So let me just say this and get out of your way. When you take good, strong community policing, Mr. Commissioner, and when you take communities wanting to fight back, and you take a plan and a strategy and a visionary that puts it together, and when you take also a state's attorney's office that will prosecute those who are breaking the law, when you add all that together, this is what we have. So 4 homicides in the month of April is unbelievable. It's far too many, but it is still unbelievable. And so the money that we bring today is just a small amount of what we've been bringing over and over and over again. Some of you paid attention in the last 4 or 5 weeks. Just one grant after another into Baltimore City to do the things to help sustain it and to make it what it can and should and will be going forward. So I'm just glad to be here, glad that so many of you here. I want to thank all the nameless and faceless people who are not at this press conference, who every day get up in their communities. They either put on a uniform or they put on their work clothes and they walk these streets and they give back and they reach down and talk to younger people about why it's so important to have dignity and to be dignified. Please join me as soon as the sirens go by. God bless the sirens. They're out to help somebody. Mr. Mayor, you didn't arrange this as an introduction for, okay. Johnny, hang on. Oh, he loves it. Johnny Olszewski served with great distinction as county executive, got elected to the United States Congress, and is serving with great distinction there. And as Chris Van Hollen said earlier, we're so very, very happy to have him, our friend and our team member, Congressman Johnny Olszewski.
I don't know. I kind of like the alarms. I think it celebrates something that is worthy of our celebration. And it is truly a privilege to be here with you. Thank you, Congressman Fume, for your steadfast leadership. And it is an honor to share in representing the city of Baltimore with you. You are a true champion for this city. And I've learned so much in our time together. And I'm so grateful to be alongside you, just as I am with the dean of our delegation, our leader, Senator Chris Van Hollen, who continues to bring Team Maryland together to over-deliver as we consistently do, with the support of Senator Alsobrooks and the rest of our team. Mr. Mayor, it is a privilege to be alongside you, your commissioner, Stephanie, the state and local elected officials here. Mayor Scott, I had the privilege of being, what did we say, your center, and you were the point guard for the Baltimore region. But I learned just how passionate you are about not just your home, but all Baltimoreans. And so I am thrilled that we are able to deliver in very tangible ways with this win. Because we do gather at a real moment of optimism and progress for the city of Baltimore. Collaboration and partnership among those invested in the city's future are contributing to that historic reduction in crime. The city has seen, as has been noted, a nearly 30% decrease in homicides and a 21% decline in non-fatal shootings compared to this time last year. And that builds on the prior year's significant historic reductions. Baltimore is safer than it has been in more than 50 years. That is progress worth celebrating. That progress is not accidental. It is a result of intentional, targeted investments in strategies that we know work, especially the group violence reduction strategy. We know it is effective because it is focused, directing resources to those most at risk of being involved in violence, combining accountability with meaningful support, pairing enforcement with outreach services and opportunities. You know, Senator Van Hollen mentioned it's all gas when you know something's working. And with gas prices these days, we definitely have to make sure we continue investing in the progress here in Baltimore. Proud to be part of a delegation that continues to deliver for our beloved city, because when we make our streets safer, we invest in everything else. Our families, our schools, our workforce, our future. This funding doesn't just support a strategy, it supports safety, it supports opportunity, and it funds hope. I'm pleased now to welcome up someone who's helping to be a big partner in that progress. Commissioner for Baltimore City Police Department, Commissioner Worley, everybody.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Congressman Olszewski. And thank you to everyone here, especially our federal delegation, for your continued support of the group violence reduction strategy. This strategy is making a real difference in our city, saving lives and helping to move our city forward. I also want to recognize members of my leadership team, Deputy Commissioner Jones, Colonel Velty, Lieutenant Colonel Brust, and members of our group violence unit and our intelligence team. Special thanks to the men and women of BPD who are on the streets and behind the scenes moving this strategy forward. We just recently announced the expansion of the strategy, and today we're grateful for the additional support as we continue to work to expand in the remaining 3 districts. Group violence reduction strategy represents a new way of approaching public safety in Baltimore. It brings together law enforcement, prosecutors, city, state, and federal agencies, and most importantly, our community. Last month's record low number of homicides was driven by focused enforcement and stronger partnerships that help reduce gun violence. Through true partnerships, we're building a safer Baltimore, both in reality and in the hope and in how people feel about their neighborhoods. The services connected to the strategy also allow us to focus on those driving violence while offering support to those who need it most. We're also seeing improvements in our clearance rates as a result of the lesser number of crimes and more time to investigate the cases. But we know there's still a lot of work to be done. Together with our partners, we remain committed to building trust, expanding opportunities, and addressing long-standing challenges in our city and our communities. Thank you again to everyone for being here and your continued support. At this time, I'll turn it over to Monty Director Stephanie Mavronis.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thank you to our federal delegation. This 1.18 million helps us continue our work of building a better, safer Baltimore. And as the mayor mentioned, this earmark meets a crucial funding need to sustain and strengthen evidence-based work through Baltimore's Group Violence Reduction Strategy, or GVRS. Today's announcement, paired with an additional 1.1 million that the mayor added into city general fund dollars in the mayor's budget, and thanks to Governor Moore, who added 2.5 million from the state, will allow us to fully expand the group violence reduction strategy citywide, grow our service capacity to meet demand, and build on the progress we've already achieved as a city, reducing homicides and non-fatal shootings to historic lows. As you've heard from everyone who's spoken, GVRS is about partnership between our local government, law enforcement, prosecutors, service providers like YAP and ROCA, and most importantly, the community. It's an example of the coordination and collaboration that's continuing to drive down violence in Baltimore and break cycles of violence. I think about how far we've come since we first launched our Western District pilot at the beginning of 2022, where we leveraged American Rescue Plan Act dollars that were secured by the federal delegation and the mayor to build this nationally proven focused deterrence model very intentionally from the ground up. In fact, as you've heard, we were at this very spot when that investment was announced, and it was the first time that Baltimore had really invested in a comprehensive public health approach to violence prevention and public safety. And while ARPA allowed us to demonstrate GVRS's impact, we always knew that that was a one-time funding source. We've been able to achieve amazing outcomes through this strategy, and I'll mention a few. Since 2022, when we started, more than 376 of the people at the absolute highest risk of being shot or shooting someone else have been connected to life-changing supports through YAP and ROCA. 94% of those who have been enrolled in services have not been re-victimized. GVRS's law enforcement partners have made 640 focused arrests, removing those responsible for driving violence from the community. This work is making a very real difference, and we look forward to growing the strategy so that we can bring the benefits of GVRS to every corner of Baltimore and continue to drive down violence. Thank you, and with that, I'll pass it back over to Mayor Scott.
Thank you, Director, and thank you to the entire Muncie GVRS team, BPD team, the Office of the Attorney General, Parole and Probation, and of course, YAP and ROCA, and all our community moral voices for our partnership with GVRS. The work that you all do every day and continue to do for Baltimore is greatly important for our city. GVRS is ultimately, everyone, about making sure that Baltimoreans can live safe, alive, and free. It's about balancing accountability with opportunity. The resources that YAP and ROCA offer through GVRS changes lives. That is the work at the core of what we are doing with the group violence reduction strategy. And you hear me talk about it over and over. You hear Director Mavronis talk about it over and over. You hear YAP and ROCA talk about it over and over. But what really matters is that when you hear from people whose lives are being changed through the strategy. And we have one of those people with us today to talk about how GVRS helped him turn his life around. I'd like to turn it over to the most important voice you will hear today from Carter, a GVRS participant with YAP, to talk about the services that they are offering and how it has helped him in his life. Carter?
Thank you, Mayor Scott, Commissioner Worley, Senator Mfume, Senator Van Holly, and Commissioner Johnny O. And special thanks to the Mayor, GVRS team, and their nonprofit partner, Youth Advocate Program, also known as YAP. Because of my past, I'm not comfortable with sharing my full name. My abbreviation name is Carter, and I'm 36 years old. There's a lot about YAP GVRS program that have been great for me as a man, a member of my community, and as a father. But the very best thing about it so far that brought me here today, standing at a press conference alongside the mayor. Baltimore is where I'm making my grandmother proud. My grandmother raised me, has loved me unconditionally through a lot. She was there for me when I was locked up 6 years ago, there for me 2 years ago when I came home. I'm a single father to 3 daughters, and she the perfect role model. When I returned from that 4 years prison sentence, I was doing okay. I started volunteering at a hospital where I was employed before I got locked up and got rehired. Then a year later, just a couple of weeks before I got off parole, I ended up getting shot randomly, not at all connected to my life before I went to prison. But because of my reputation and really my ego, I refused to be a victim. I didn't let it go. I slipped into old behaviors. I got arrested on gun possession and other felony charges, and I lost my job. That's when GVRS team came into my life. My life coach is Sterling Harrington. I got to know me, help me see and build on good in me and my strength, like loving my family, my loyalty, my personality. He also helped me take accountability for my actions. Sterling knew I was going through a process to get my driver's license back since I lost it when I went to prison. Sterling also knew I had to pay restitution for my actions. He enrolled me into the Yapworth Job Readiness Program and helped me get a new job, this time with Downtown Partnership. Without a driver's license, it's not one of those high paying jobs. Sterling worked for me to start working on the driving improvement class. I needed to get my license back, but since that it cost money, Sterling helped me understand that I needed to put off paying to complete that program until I get the restitution taken care of. When I get impatient, Sterling is there to remind me to take one step at a time. And I had 3 little girls that deserve and need me in their life. I'm in addition to helping the program participant, yet make sure loved ones are good as well. Sterling had provided support and guidance for me as a father and a true role model. And while my grandmother is pretty self-sufficient, he and the YAT team are also there for her. Last Thanksgiving, for example, they bought her a turkey, ingredients for a whole meal. But because my grandmother is who she is, she gave it to a friend that was in need. I'm grateful to YAT for being a GVRS partner so that I can provide for my daughters, give back to my community, and show my grandmother that her investment in me was worth it. Thank you for letting me share my story.
Hey,
Sterling here.
very nice.
Where's
Very nice.
Sterling over there?
That's Sterling?
Yeah, that's
All right,
Sterling back
Sterling.
there. All right.
Sterling, yeah, Sterling.
Hey, Sterling.
Sir? Open it up for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to everybody, most of all for that great personal testimony we just heard. We're happy to try and answer any questions you all have. If
They come.
okay.
Don't force them.
Yeah.
They are coming. They come. Oh, they waiting on that. That never happens. Second question.
No, all right.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, Boy Kamau, WYPR News. My question for you is if you could give us an update on the Comprehensive Violence Prevention Plan, because you started out the year talking about it, so we'd like an update.
Yeah, so actually, the director and the team will be unveiling the second round of the CVIP very soon. But we have a lot of work to do. Mainly, we're talking with community about the next round of CVIP. I believe you guys have already put out for folks to send. Yeah, and very soon you'll hear from Monse talking about how we want the input, the same way we went through the first time. And then after we get that input and really update the plan, then we'll be doing as we have to legally do and present that to the council and to myself. No dates. We got to see what we get back from the residents first.
Cheval Price, excuse me, Cheval Price, Baltimore Sun, had a 2-part question. One, GVRS expanded to the Northern District recently, and you said that this funding will let you expand to the rest of the areas. I know that you guys like to work on one area at a time, but can you give me like a general timeline on when you expand to those areas? Cool. All right, next question.
And I think it's important. It's important, my man, for you to understand why. This is the 3rd time that Baltimore has tried focus deterrence. Every other time it failed. Other than having the political leadership that had the will to not changed the strategy because a whole bunch of people were yelling and screaming, or elected officials wanted it to be different, or the world told them that like you had to go out and just arrest every black person and crime would go down. Spoiler alert, it didn't go down when they did it that way. Also, one of the reasons why they try to grow too fast. We allow the data to show us where we need to go. We're going to do that analysis for every district, just like we have done for the 6 that we have so far, but then also making sure that we're moving when the organizations, everybody is ready, we understand, and that we're ready to do that. We are not going to move, set a timeline for that. We will say that we want to do these things, but we're going to do it in accordance with how we have been operating this strategy and making sure that we get it right and not get it fast.
Awesome, thank you. And this next question is specifically for Monsi. Last week at a Public Safety Committee meeting, Ms. Mavronis discussed revamping the program and changing some things around. I wanted to see what the timeline was with that, and if there's any details about how that program is being reconfigured.
Yeah, there's no be revamping of GVRS.
Not GVRS,
yeah,
Monsi specifically.
yeah,
not
Monsi,
GVRS.
as in every agency, right? And you'll be seeing that from me and my administration. They follow what our pillars, and they follow their goals and actions. Every agency has to consistently update how they operate and what they're going to be doing, because we don't want to be stagnant. I just got finished talking with the director of Rec and Parks before I came up here to you. Yes, they have seen historic investment. Yes, we have more summer camps, more rec centers, all those things. But we will not rest on what we have done. We have to continue to do more. We have to evolve everything that we do, and Monsi's going through the same process.
Thank you.
This question is for Congressman Olszewski about your ROBE Act announcement earlier this morning. Why go the constitutional amendment route, and how will this not be seen as politicizing the court following a ruling one party may not like?
Well, I appreciate the question. Look, this is a Supreme Court that has no code of ethics. They were literally seen shoulder to shoulder with the president at the state dinner. This is a Supreme Court that has affirmatively unwound decades of precedent, including fundamental civil rights rulings. And so I think it is reasonable and in fact necessary that we move forward and have a conversation about how the Supreme Court is held accountable in the same way that we hold ourselves accountable through elections, through change. And I think what the mayor and his team are doing here in Baltimore about imagining what's possible, this constitutional amendment will do just that as well. It's unfortunate that's become necessary, but that's where we are, and I'm happy to talk more offline, but we can make the focus really about this today.
Hey, hold on, Jack. I haven't had the chance to talk about this yet, but I just think that we really have to understand what happened last week. We have to understand that this question of whether racism and all these things still exist in this country, I don't want to hear it anymore after last week. People literally fought for decades and died and hung from trees and were burned and were shot on their driveways in front of their children, right? Shot in every different place in this country so that we could have the Voting Rights Act and have equal representation under the law. And in one swift vote, we saw that go away. So when you have folks who, out of one side of their mouth, say that, like, we have to make sure that we're working towards the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King, and then in the other side of their mouth, taking away the very rights that he died fighting for, we shouldn't be having that conversation in 2026. And we have to understand now, for those people, especially in those states like Louisiana and others, where they're already trying to say, yep, we got it passed in the Supreme Court, we're going to make sure that these people's votes don't matter. This is happening not in 1966, but in 2026 in America. And it's something that we all have a duty to stand up to fight for. We have to make sure that we do not allow this kind of hatred that is now seeping its way into the halls of the Supreme Court to just be pushed out to the country, so that folks whose ancestors literally built this country for free, votes are rendered pointless. Thank you.